After the explosion of mobile gaming giants like Angry Birds and Temple Run, there was a quirky little game that somehow found its way onto millions of smartphones. It wasn't packed with advanced graphics, complex gameplay, or even big name franchises behind it. It was just a little piece of shit. I mean, a cute brown blob named Pooh. This blob, with its big eyes and potato-like shape, quickly became a household name in the early days of mobile gaming. But why did this strange little pet game capture so many people's attention? How did a game about feeding, cleaning, and playing mini games with a virtual pet turn into one of the most popular apps of its time? And most importantly, if you have time to feed Pooh, why don't you have a second to drop a like and subscribe? I'm sure he will be happy too. He's not even hungry. In this video, we'll dive into the unexpected success of Pooh, from its humble beginnings to its rise in popularity and lasting influence on mobile gaming. Whether you remember playing it yourself or just hearing about it from others, Pooh remains one of the most memorable mobile games of the early 2010s, despite not being talked about much today. At its core, Pooh was a virtual pet game, just like Nintendogs and Neopets, but on phones. The goal? Take care of your very own virtual pet by feeding it, cleaning it, and making sure it was happy. You could also play mini games, customize your pet's appearance, and level it up as it grew. The game might sound simple, but that simplicity was a big part of its appeal. In fact, thanks to its easy gameplay, even children could enjoy it. Plus, the character itself, Pooh, was perfect for kids. It was something undeniably cute. Even so, looking back, it was quite weird. Players would interact with it by tapping on the screen to play with it, and ensure it didn't get too dirty, sick, or tired. The satisfaction of caring for this little digital pet was surprisingly engaging, and as Pooh grew, so did the sense of accomplishment. Personally, I also used it to show my mom I was responsible enough to have a dog. I know I'm not alone, don't lie, but this is not part of the story. Let's talk about the man behind it all, Paul Salameh. I'm not sure about the pronunciation. A solo developer from Lebanon, working under the studio name Zake, built Pooh with one simple goal: create a game that anyone could play, regardless of their phone's processing power. And that's exactly what he did. Released in 2012, Pooh didn't require much to run, meaning it was accessible to a broad range of people with various smartphones, including those with low-end devices. This made the game particularly popular also in regions where smartphones were just starting to become common, but not everyone had access to high-end devices. But it wasn't just the low hardware requirement that made Pooh a success. Its real charm lay in its simplicity. Players didn't need to worry about complicated controls, grinding, or learning complex systems. You just took care of your pet, played fun mini games, and customized your little blob to your heart's content. It was relaxing, easy to pick up, and you could play it in short bursts, perfect for a mobile game. The nostalgia factor also played a big role. Pooh had a retro feel, calling back to simpler games from the past, like Tamagotchi, but with a modern twist. It resonated with people who were looking for something easy, fun, and low pressure to play while on the go. There were already a lot of competitive games, from Angry Birds and Cut the Rope to the king of Rage Quit, Happy Wheels. So, people who didn't want to destroy their phones anymore started chilling out with Pooh. After its initial success, Pooh was, for a time, one of the top mobile games in the world, and while its simple concept didn't require frequent updates to keep players engaged, Salameh continued to push out occasional updates to keep the game fresh and relevant. In the years following its release, Pooh received several minor updates. These typically included new minigames, extra customization options for your pet, and improvements to the interface. Players could unlock different outfits and accessories for Pooh, adding a layer of personalization. The game's world expanded, and there were always little improvements made to keep it running smoothly, especially as new versions of smartphones came out. One of the most notable updates was the addition of a new section called the shop, where players could purchase more items, from food to new backgrounds and even accessories for their beloved blob. There were also new mini-games added over time, ensuring players didn't get bored of the same content. These updates kept the game relevant for a few more years. However, despite these updates, Pooh never experienced a major overhaul or a game-changing update like the World Tour of Subway Surfers. Salameh kept the game in its core, simple form, sticking to the recipe that made it so successful in the first place. This approach worked for a while, but as mobile gaming evolved, more complex games began to dominate the market and Pooh started to fade into the background. The new wave of mobile games was simply more engaging than our beloved blob, and even so, the mini games tried to keep him alive, they weren't enough. The game was probably probably doomed to fade away, because at its core, it was built on an old school concept and no update could really change that. The developers were stuck. If they tried to modernize the game to keep up with the times, they'd have to betray its original idea, which no longer worked, but changing it too much would only disappoint long-time fans, and even worse, new players might not even give it a chance. After all, POU was known as a virtual pet and nothing more, but then something happened. A new game dropped, a game that nobody could expect. It was the perfect game to refresh the franchise and bring back to its glory POU. In 2021, a trailer was dropped on a YouTube channel that leaked what the sequel of POU would have been. I know, I'm sorry, but I was doing some researches for this deep dive and this video is the thing that is most likely to be the official trailer of POU 2. I mean, I was sure that at least a sequel or a spin-off had been released since 2012, but nothing, I just found him. Actually, we got a kind of spin-off of POU, if you want to call it that way, because while POU faded from the spotlight, another game came out of nowhere and I bet you already know it, POU's Revenge. Released in 2024, this of course official game took the concept of POU and turned it into a whole new direction. In this game, POU isn't the friendly and cute virtual pet he used to be. He's a freaking monster. The gameplay shifted dramatically, with POU now launching attacks and interacting with the environment in a more, let's say, destructive way. It was of course just a silly creepy game, but I thought it was interesting to see someone working more than the original creator to make a sort of sequel of the first game. It kinda reminds me another game. This was also a good assist for Salameh to drop a POU 2, because even so this creepypasta isn't the most successful game ever, it still brought a bit of hype back on this little pet. As everybody could expect, during the years POU slowly faded from the spotlight. The mobile gaming scene had evolved, with new trends and much more complex games drawing in players. POU's simple, pixelated graphics and repetitive gameplay didn't quite hold up in a market that was increasingly favoring flashy visuals and intricate mechanics. However, that doesn't mean the story of POU is over. In 2020, Paul Salameh made an exciting announcement that gave fans hope. He revealed that he was working on a POU sequel, one that would breathe new life into the beloved franchise. Fans, of course, wanted to hear more, hoping for a game that would modernize the experience, with updated graphics, new gameplay features, and perhaps even more interactivity. Unfortunately, no solid details or a release date have emerged since Salameh's announcement, leaving many to wonder when or if the sequel will ever see the light of day, but the fact that he's still working on a POU sequel shows just how much the original game impacted the mobile gaming community, leaving a lasting impression on a generation of players. Despite its decline in popularity, POU will always be remembered as one of the most iconic mobile games of its time. It was simple, it was fun, and it was a perfect example of how even the most basic ideas can become global phenomena when they hit at the right time. And who knows, maybe we'll find ourselves saying, Mamma mia, POU 2 before GTA 6, but until that moment, POU will just be an old memory.
I love you.